Looking back, it was almost like I was asleep, and now I'm awake. Something was missing, and I couldn't figure out what that was. I look around at my life, and most people would say it was a pretty good life. I was up in 1% income range. My kids had 5 acres in the country. We had several horses. We had the pool. But at the end of the day, I found myself sitting out by the pool often and just be completely empty. I just started realizing, and it's a journey, and thankfully I had some really great coaches. What I call it now is a truth journey. What's the truth? I know I reached a point where I just was like, I don't have any more answers. I've gone to therapy with and without my wife. She wasn't happy, I wasn't happy. One day I drove to the office. I had a pretty big team, and I started to get where I just dreaded walking into the office and walking in, and they're all looking at me for leadership, and I'm like, apparently I don't have it figured out. Anyway, I went to park. It was a Friday. I parked in the parking lot. I looked up at my office, which was on the 6th floor. This idea just popped in my head to drive to the beach. I lived about 6 hours from the beach, and I just started driving. I was just kind of existing down there for a couple days, and not really knowing, just kind of observing. I went to a restaurant. I'm looking around like, am I supposed to see something? Is there, like, I'm here. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. I ran into a guy, and he kind of listened to my story, and he said, you know what? I have a friend that you need to talk to. He happens to live in Austin, and his name was Ben. I was just literally at that point, I was like, I'll do anything. Whatever shows up, I'll try it. Drove home, and on the way, this guy named Ben called me, and we scheduled a time to meet. I remember going up to the door and knocking, and he opened the door, and he was just very intentional. And he brought me into his office, and he saged me for the first time. I've never been saged. He handed me this card. All it said on it, stop talking. And I was like, okay. He started to teach me how to get in touch with myself, and what was this all for? And he started teaching me to meditate, and we do these guided meditations. I had this very clear voice pop into my head that said, let her go. It meant that it was time to divorce my wife at the time. Me holding on and not being true to myself about how unhappy I was, not being really honest about the situation, was not helping her at all. When did I know I was sort of like awake versus asleep? Or one of the things I noticed in those moments when I was really unhappy was that some addictive behaviors started showing up. Or maybe I would drink a few beers more often than I normally would. After I made that decision, start the process of a divorce, and I moved out, I was living in a rental house, and I literally had a TV, 1 chair, and a bed. But I realized how happy I was. The addictive behavior, the addictive thoughts just completely were gone. And so that was kind of a sign where I must be on the right track. I started looking for other coaches for other areas of my life. Because what I found is that having a coach and having someone who has been down whatever trail, whatever road you're trying to go down, they've been down that road, and they can kind of guide you. It really speeds up the process. That's the power of coaching. And so I really fell in love with my coaches. What I do now is I help people manifest their authentic desires. I'm pretty good at it. And part of that's because I've gone through my own journey and done the work. The first question is, what are your authentic desires? Depending on who I'm working with, some people know what their authentic desire is, but they're not really sure how to achieve it or obtain it. Maybe they have a lot of shoulds in their life or a lot of can'ts. I can't do certain things. And so it's kind of working through that so they find some freedom and sort of expand their life a little bit to give themselves a little freedom to start to go down that path. And sometimes they just don't even know what their authentic desire is. What I realized is that we make so many decisions based on a very narrow window we see, of life. Whether it's the family we grew up in, whether it's the church we go to, the town we live in, the school we go to, they're all implanting, their version of reality onto you and what's possible. We make all kinds of lifelong decisions on what's possible for ourselves based on this very narrow window. To see there's a whole lot of other options out there for us. That's what I think a really great coach can do, is to kind of help you start to see some of those other options and see those possibilities. Like, I have friends that get a sailboat and sail around the world for 2 years. How the heck does somebody do that? And they don't particularly have a ton of money, they're not rich, but they figured out a way to do it. But they're not telling you in school that that's a possibility. Once I learned to listen to my authentic desire, and I started aligning my actions with my authentic desire, magic started to happen. Sitting here today, every day feels like Saturday morning. My income increased 5 times as much as I'd been striving for all along. My love is now focused on others and how I can make a difference in their lives. So my passion now is helping others through this process and helping them learn to love themselves, to love others, and connect with their authentic desire. And the energy that's created from that, when they align their authentic desire with their actions, creates miracles. And what's possible for you is to live a life that occurs as a journey of miracles.